following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's kind of getting that little feeling now, isn't it? As we get that little bit closer, and when you say it is the 12th of December, you realise it's just around the corner, don't you? Good morning. How are you? I'm Adrian Kennedy. Between now and midday today, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin, by Dublin, and about Dublin. Now, what have we got on the agenda today? Well, I can tell you we've a busy one coming up in just a moment. Terror attack last night in Strasbourg in France. We'll be crossing live to Strasbourg and talking to someone who was caught up in the terror. Also, when was the last time you gave blood? And if you don't do it regularly, why not? And I've been putting my own hand up in shame that I haven't done it for too long a time, and I'm going to have to do it before Christmas. A couple have been caught doing it on top of the pyramids in Egypt. Have you seen this photograph? It's hilarious. It's on our Twitter at Dublin Talks 98 FM. At Dublin Talks 98 FM. A couple caught doing it at the top of the pyramids. We'll be finding out where is the weirdest place that you got frisky. In fact, let us know now. Text or WhatsApp me right now to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. I was in France a couple of months ago, and we were at this kind of ancient castle. Looked over the side of the building, and there's a couple at it right there at this ancient ruin. Yeah, anyway, where's the weirdest place you ever did it? Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. After 11, we'll be talking to a road safety campaigner who supports the idea of doing motorists for dangerous driving if they're caught doing over 30 over the speed limit. So in other words, this is the new law that Shane Ross is proposing. I don't know how people feel about this. Say, for example, you're on a motorway at 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's not a sinner on the road, and you're doing 150 kilometres. If you were caught, you could be done with dangerous driving. And we want to find out how you feel about that. Now, dangerous driving, getting convicted of dangerous driving is as bad for your licence, for your insurance, for your employment as drink driving is. So we're going to be asking whether or not that is a fair punishment. All that and much more between now and midday today. It's 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Now, a number of people are dead, up to 3, and 12 more are injured. At least half of those in a serious condition after a gunman opened fire at a Christmas market in the eastern French city of Strasbourg. It's another shocking attack. Not yet confirmed to be terrorism, but it appears that way. That has left people's lives ruined less than 2 weeks before Christmas. Many Irish people were in the area last night, one of whom was Sinn Féin Northern Ireland MEP Martina Anderson. She tweeted shortly after the attack saying, "Okay, folks, back in the hotel, thinking about all who were murdered and injured tonight in Strasbourg. Prayers are needed for them all and their families at this difficult time." And Martina joins me on the line from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Martina, welcome to 98 FM. How close were you to this incident last night?
Well, I arrived at the Christmas market. I have never been at the Christmas market before, but when I was entering the vicinity of the market, our bags were searched. And I don't know if that's the norm around the Christmas time. There was an army presence at the market, but that said, it was a very festive atmosphere. There was a skating rink, there was young children playing, there were Christmas trees and stalls and all of that, and it was a real festive atmosphere.
And indeed, the Strasbourg market is one of the most beautiful in the whole of France.
I have to say it's the first time I've seen it, and it was amazing. It was remarkable, and I'm here from 2012, and as a side, the only reason why I went to see it was getting kicked out because of Brexit, and it would be the last opportunity to see it. And one of my staff was leaving, so I took the opportunity. We had left just the vicinity of where the trees and everything else was, And just as we were walking down the street towards where the shooting started, there was about 2 bangs or so first. I thought maybe it was fireworks or some kind of part of the festive atmosphere, but it was clear as the shooting continued that that's what it was. People were scattering in all directions, and can I just express my deepest sympathy for those who were caught up in the incident, those who've been killed, those that are still struggling to fighting for their lives as we speak, and those who've been injured. We ran back into the market area. I was with 3 younger colleagues than I, around half my age, and they were trying to ensure that I kept the pace with them. We were shouting at people to get back, to take their children. You know, everyone was running in all directions. It was mayhem.
And how soon did it become clear that this was more than just fireworks?
Very soon. After the first bang, second bang, and then it was just bang, 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 and then at that stage we knew. We all knew. Everyone in front of us was scattering in different directions. We ran back towards the market, towards the tree area where the stalls were. We were calling on people to get their children back, calling on people to get back, to get down, to get away, to take their children out of the area as we were running. And we must have ran for approximately about 6-7 minutes to get back to the security area that we were checked in. It appeared to me it was only at that stage that those around the security check-in area were realising that the crowd was running towards them. They were trying to get us through. There was no evacuation. People were running in different directions. Now, probably, maybe the personnel, in terms of the army personnel, may have been running around the scene of where it was happening, but there was no sense of people being directed or, encouraged to go one way or the other to get out of the area. It was absolute mayhem.
It sounds terrifying.
It was very frightening. We got into one of the hotel that one of my colleagues was staying in. There was a lockdown in the secure zone. They kept people in restaurants, asked people not to move. We then, about an hour later, heard another number of shots. We since learned that there was an exchange between the army or police and the gunman, and apparently he got away from that. We could hear that. We weren't as close to that as what we had been in the first incident. And then in the European Parliament, Leonie Rita from Ireland South, she was here along with a number of other MEPs and staff, and they were all locked in to the Parliament, and that went into lockdown. Then the Parliament had been given police escorts to the MEPs. Leah had refused to leave because the staff were not getting treated in the same way of getting access to their place of stay, and she was insisting that the Parliament also looked after the staff, and rightly so. So it was the early hours of the morning before any of us got moving. I must give credit to the taxi service in Strasbourg, because there was a number of us I was trying to get to my hotel, which was out of the area of the town. And what they were doing was putting people into taxis that were close to one another, and all the taxis were free. They were just getting people out of the area and either home or to their hotels or places to stay.
What is the atmosphere like in Strasbourg this morning?
Well, I'm talking to you now from inside the European Parliament. The MEPs are now returning to the Parliament. The Parliament was to sit an hour ago. We're an hour ahead of you. It didn't start at that time. We are being told that services are going to continue. We have a lot of folks to get through, but I have to say at this stage our hearts are sore. Thinking of those who have been killed, those who are struggling and fighting for their lives, those who have been injured. And, so the atmosphere is one of thinking and praying about those who have been hurt and caught up in the shooting last night, and hoping that the person responsible is caught and brought before the courts.
Okay, well, we hope it is a peaceful day in Strasbourg today. Sinn Féin Northern Ireland MEP Martina Anderson, thank you very much indeed for talking to us on 98 FM.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. God bless.
I have to say, this time last year, I was actually at the Christmas market in Colmar, which is only about 20 miles from Strasbourg. And one thing that struck me at that market and at other Christmas markets that I've been at over the last couple of years has been the fact that there are barricades to stop trucks driving in and ramming over people, and it's just so sad to see. I know an awful lot of people, it's one of my things, I love going to Christmas markets all around Europe, and in fact, the conversation for another day is why we don't do it here in Dublin, but anyway... and it saddens me to see barricades around the perimeter of the Christmas markets to stop trucks driving in. But there's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent what happened in Strasbourg last night. You can have all the barricades in the world, and the only way to prevent it then is to literally nearly strip search everybody walking into the Christmas market. It's sad. It wouldn't put me off going, but... the Christmas market by its very nature is a family-friendly thing, and people walking around and having mulled wine or glühwein, as they call it in Germany, and it saddens me. Anyway, hopefully that guy will be arrested. I know a number of arrests have been made in France, and hopefully the guy responsible for that shooting last night will be caught sooner rather than later. Now, next on the programme, the Irish Blood Transfusion Service has appealed for donors over the Christmas period after a warning about potential shortage of blood. More than 10,000 donations, get a load of that, listen to that number, more than 10,000 donations will be needed over the next few weeks to maintain the supply. It says 200 patients need a blood transfusion every day, and that the festive period can be a particular challenge in making sure there is enough. And knowing I was going to be talking about this today had me thinking as to when was the last time that I gave blood, and I'm going to put my hands up and say it's been too long ago. It's like a first confession. It's been too long since I last donated blood, and in my head I'm making a commitment to give a donation before Christmas. Okay, sometime in the next week I will make a donation because I haven't done it for far too long. And I want you to text or WhatsApp me now on 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. When was the last time you donated blood? Just tell me, like in months, years, or never. And if it's never, have you a medical reason for it, or have you just never bothered your arse? Text or WhatsApp right now to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. Paul McKinney is the Operations Director of the Irish Blood Transfusion Service. Paul, welcome to 98 FM.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Good morning.
Firstly, Paul, my apologies, because thinking about it today, I realised it's been far too long since I donated blood, and I don't have a good enough excuse. I don't have any medical reason that I can't donate blood. So I have to start with an apology, and I will rectify that situation over the next week. But I wouldn't be alone, would I?
No, unfortunately you wouldn't. And firstly, thank you very much for doing that. That's fantastic. No, you wouldn't. I mean, people always start off with the best intentions and have very good reasons why they don't. I mean, people are very busy, and unfortunately those good intentions are sometimes forgotten. But listen, if you reconsider it, and please look up our website, giveblood.ie, see where your nearest clinic is, do the eligibility quiz. We would absolutely love to have current donors, past donors, and new donors all welcome. Okay, now you've issued a special appeal urging people to donate blood, particularly at this time of the year. I hadn't realised that more than 10,000 donations will be needed over the next few weeks just to maintain supply. That's it. We keep 7 days national supply. We need 3,000 donations a week just to keep the hospitals ticking over. So that's why we're looking for 10,000 attendances. And it's particularly tough, as you said in your intro, with Christmas and the New Year days following. The 24th, the 25th and the 26th, the Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, are our three busiest collection days. So that's why we're making this request for donors to make a special effort through the holiday period.
Okay, now, as I said, for a lot of people, and I'm just looking at the messages coming in, some people saying they've never donated. In fact, one lady said, I wish I could, but I'm excluded. And there are many different reasons. Why would somebody not be able to give blood?
Well, as you quite rightly say, there's lots of different reasons, and all the reasons and the deferrals are actually on our website, giveblood.ie. The main reason is obviously we need to look after both donors and the recipients of the blood. So that's why we have clearly defined deferrals for very good medical reasons to make sure that no infection can be passed either way. And that's the main reason. It's to ensure that the blood supply is safe and secure. Okay, so somebody just texted in to ask this question. Is it true that you can't give blood if you have tattoos? No, you can give blood. There is a 4-month deferral period. So when you've had your tattoo, 4 months later, absolutely, you can give blood. Okay, so that's an urban myth. There's just a period of time that has to elapse after you get your tattoos, and then you're good to go. Exactly. Tell me what somebody is doing if they donate blood. Are they literally saving somebody's life? You absolutely are. Blood is used for all sorts of reasons. It could be for the treatment of newborn babies, for obstetric emergency operations, for cancer patients, heart operations, hip operations, road traffic accidents. Blood is needed to help people survive and recover from all those types of information. So absolutely, the gift of blood donations is saving somebody's life without a doubt. Okay, now in terms of donating, how easy is it? I remember many years ago. No, it was a long time ago. There was a campaign in the UK where I think it was Noel Edmonds spearheaded the campaign, and he was seen donating blood and everything else. We don't see enough of that today. And it kind of highlighted how easy it was to give blood. How easy is it? Well, it is easy. It does require commitment from the donor, which we greatly appreciate. The whole process lasts between 1 and 2 hours, and what we would recommend is that you do go onto the website giveblood.ie, do the eligibility quiz, and that will very quickly tell you whether you're able to donate blood this time around, or you may have to wait for a couple of months because of some deferral. But the process, once you've done the eligibility quiz, just come into the clinic. We register you. We ask you to fill in a health and lifestyle questionnaire, and if you're a first-time donor or for somebody who hasn't donated for 5 years or more, one of our nurses will sit down and just go through that questionnaire with you. We will then measure your hemoglobin, and if that's within the tolerance levels, then we bring you through to the donation beds. That process takes between 10 and 15 minutes. And after that's done, we bring you through to our canteen, nice cup of tea, bag of crisps, a biscuit, whatever, just to make sure that you're 100%. And then off you go. And then off you go with our thanks. And having done it myself, I can say it's fairly straightforward. Even if you're fairly, not very fond of needles and whatever, you just turn your head the other way and off you go. It is fairly straightforward. I just have one question one of our listeners has to ask before I let you go, Paul. Darren, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Darren?
Not too bad.
Darren, you were saying that you would love to give blood, but...
I'm a gay man.
You're a gay man, okay. And what sort of restrictions are there on you donating blood?
I was listening, you have to abstain from sex for a year.
Paul, why is that?
Well, it's for medical reasons. I'm not a medically trained individual, so these are restrictions that are put in place by my medical colleagues. The deferral was a permanent deferral, and in the last 2 years it was changed to 12 months, and that's in line with most other countries around the world. It's constantly being reviewed, and should my medical colleagues decide that it should change and be reduced, then that will be the case. But at the moment, it's a 12-month deferral.
Darren, you obviously don't think that's fair, do you?
No, not really. Should everyone else abstain from sex for a year before they go and give blood? Like, even married couples or stray couples or whatever.
Mm.
Well, it's as I said, it's a medical decision. It's taken to ensure that the donor and the recipient are safe and that the blood supply is safe. And it's through the analysis of data that the medical team make these decisions. As I said, it is constantly being checked and reviewed, and as I said earlier, it was reduced from a permanent deferral to a 12-month deferral, which is absolute progress.
Okay, finally, Paul, if somebody wants to donate blood and you're urging you need 10,000 donations between now and Christmas, they just have to go to the website giveblood.ie.
Giveblood.ie, or if you would like to ring our free phone number, 1850 731 137. One of my colleagues will be able to take the call and deal with any queries. And as you said yourself, Adrian, we're coming up to the new year. It'd be a great New Year's resolution for people to consider. Please become a donor and help save a life. All right.
Paul McKinney, Operations Director of the Irish Blood Transfusion Service, thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM. After the break, Janet, I'm going to be talking to you straight after the break about how important donating blood is and what happened to your son. Oh, she's not there. We'll get her in a second.
98 FM's Dublin Talks
With the Des Kelly Interiors gift voucher for beds, flooring and more.
98 FM.
This is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Carl, why have you never given blood?
To be honest with you, Adrian, I just couldn't be bothered with you now. I just think it's a lot of a waste of time now. Like, it's not our blood at the end of the day now.
Well, obviously it's your blood, yeah. Obviously it's your blood, but you've heard how important it is for people to donate. They need 10,000 donations between now and Christmas.
Well, if you heard of self-love, Adrian, you have to put yourself first. Why would I donate my blood to somebody else when I have it in my own body to look after myself?
But you can do without a pint of it.
You can do it without it.
Yeah.
Would that not be putting myself at loss then?
No, not really. You replace it within a couple of hours. Well, here, stay there for 1 second, Carl. I have to say, I can't stand that attitude. Janet.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Janet, tell me how important it is to donate blood. What happened to your son?
Back in February, we went in just to bring him in. He wasn't well, and we brought him in. He had blood tests done. And we were called immediately back into the hospital, and he had to have a blood transfusion because his blood had stopped producing the reticulites, which hold on to the oxygen in your blood. Mm-hmm. So his body was losing oxygen, so he needed the transfusion to save his life. So I don't think people really realise what it does. Within half an hour of him getting that transfusion, the colour came back into him, his body. It was just like a miracle, I have to say. It was just amazing to watch, like, you know, when you see it. And
literally you could see the change in him within minutes of getting the transfusion.
Yeah, within about, I'd say, 20 minutes.
Wow.
You could see the difference in him. It was just unbelievable. But like I said in my text, I had given blood years ago, but then I kind of fell out of the habit of doing it. When you get pregnant, you're not allowed to give blood for so long afterwards. But then, since this happened, myself and my husband both try to go down as often as we can to give it. But like that, when it kind of hits your own, I suppose you realise what the importance is of it.
That's what I was about to say. When it hasn't hit you, you have this sort of selfish attitude that guy Carl had of,
exactly.
you know, I need the blood myself. But you saw with your own two eyes what it actually does.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think a lot of people do have, and maybe it's not a kind of a bad thing. They just don't realise, I suppose, what it can actually do and how it makes such a difference to so many people.
And how's he now?
Oh, he's doing well. Well, 2 weeks ago he had pneumonia. It's just, I don't know, but he's doing well now anyway, so...
Oh, that's good to hear. But the point being that the blood transfusion, the difference it made to him within amazing. 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was amazing. You could just see the colour coming back into his whole body, his whole humour changed. It was just amazing.
All right, well,
it really was.
There's food for thought for anybody who is kind of thinking about it.
And it doesn't, like, it takes just an hour and a half out of your day, and it doesn't hurt or anything like that, and
it's just such a worthwhile thing to do.
All right. Well, I'm delighted to hear that he has made a recovery. But Janet, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks.
And it just shows you. Okay, that guy Carl, I didn't want to talk to him for too long because I can't stand that sort of attitude. I need me blood for myself. There is something wrong with that Carl fella. I just got a tattoo, but I'll be giving blood as soon as the 4 months is up. I'm delighted it's only 4 months. I thought it was a year after a tattoo. I'm also rhesus negative, so my blood is very much needed. Thank you very much indeed for the information, says that person. And then, how selfish is Carl? Oh my God, it's a pint which is replaced quickly after food and drink. Grow a set, Carl, and get educated on the need for blood. And you just heard from that lady the need for it, that it literally saved her son's life. If you want to do it, and I would urge you to, please visit giveblood.ie, and it has all the information, all the list of clinics and everything else, if you would like to donate between now and Christmas, and they need 10,000 donations. Okay? And it could actually save the life of a family member between now and Christmas, your donation of blood. Now, next on the programme, I want you to text or WhatsApp me about the biggest rows that you have over the Christmas period. Now, obviously, we're not talking about huge rows, okay? A poll has found that who controls the TV remote control over the festive period is the number one family argument over Christmas. Who has control of the TV remote is the most common family argument over the Christmas period. The poll asked 2,000 adults what caused the most arguments and bust-ups in their family home over the festive period. And the number one thing on the list was who has the remote. Now, that's an argument in our house all the time, but at Christmas, apparently, it is the number one argument in families. I want you to text or WhatsApp me on 0877 98 98 98. What leads to little rows in your house over the Christmas period? I'm not talking about major blow-ups. I'm talking about little rows like who has control of the remote control. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. What is that little thing that you always end up arguing about in your house? I know, for example, one that has regularly led to rows over the years is cheating in a board game. So, you know, on Christmas Day evening or Stephen's Day or whatever, you end up playing Monopoly. Now, Monopoly, great game, I love it to bits, but it always leads to rows. Because not everybody understands the rules, and you're playing one way, I'm playing another way, and we end up killing each other. What is that small little thing that you argue about in your house when it comes to Christmas time? Is it cheating on a board game or not understanding the rules, basically? Is it ownership of the remote control or something else? Text or WhatsApp me right now to 0877 98 98 98. Okay? What is the one row that you have in your home? Okay? Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Just back to the blood for a second. A text I'm just after getting in. I'm happy to explain this, Jason. Adrian, did you say that after you give blood, you get it back? I never knew that. Can you elaborate? Yes, Jason, when you donate a pint of blood, which is all they're taking out of you, within hours, your body restocks, basically. So that's blood that you give, within a couple of hours, you have it back again because your body regenerates itself. So there you go. Was that the fellow who was on? Anyway, yes, you basically have that blood back in your body within hours of donating blood. So don't be fearful of donating blood. So there you are, Jason. I hope that answers your question. And if that's your reason for not having given blood, yeah, sorry, Jeremy's just saying they don't physically hand it back to you. Your body generates it again. So within hours of donating blood, your body has already generated it all over again. Okay. Anyway, what are the things that you argue about in your house over the Christmas time? Text or WhatsApp me on 0877 98 98 98. Paul, what's the one thing you end up arguing about?
Who gets the last of the stuffing and the roast potatoes?
Yeah. The roast potatoes. Why is there never enough?
I can never do enough. The more I do, the more they want.
You see, I have to say, the two things I love most on my Christmas dinner is sprouts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, actually, three things. I love sprouts, I love my mushy peas, and I love the roasties. And it's...
Yeah.
But there's no matter who's making dinner, there's never enough roasties because people always snap them up.
Well, this is the problem. You see, I've 11 down for dinner Christmas Day. I do all the cooking, and there's only so much you can fit in an oven. But I normally do around 30 to 40 roast potatoes. Everyone's had their dinner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of stuffing left. There's a few roasties left. And about an hour after dinner, somebody would say, geez, I fancy a roast potato with a salt and sauce on it. And the next thing, the whole family, oh, well, here, I want one. If he's had one, I want one. And so, yeah, we have a bit of a bust up over it, and then we calm things down, and I bring in the last two roasties, and I say, who wants them? They all put their hand up, and I shove them in my mouth.
Well, you made them, yeah, fair enough.
Well,
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. All right, so basically the roasties is what you end up arguing over. What do you argue about in your house over Christmas? Text or WhatsApp me to 0877 98 98 98. Okay, so roasties are on the list, and it is an argument that many people have when there's only two left. Who's getting the last two? Keith, what do you end up arguing over?
Oh, yeah. Trying to make them presents that Santa brings.
Oh, like hiding them and all of that?
No, trying to make the kitchens, and when they wake up Christmas morning and they want the presents built there and then.
That leads to arguments.
Yeah.
No, I can understand how that leads to arguments. It is a big problem in most houses every year. What do you argue about at Christmas time? Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks
With the Des Kelly Interiors gift voucher. The perfect present this Christmas.
98 FM.
Keep the text coming in to 0877 98 98 98 about the things that cause rows in your house coming up to, well, on Christmas Day and Stephen's Day and whatever. Here's one. Everybody has to argue about this. Who's doing the washing up or stacking the dishwasher? Always leads to arguments. Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
So how are you?
Sarah, what do you argue about at home?
We don't argue.
Oh, you don't argue?
No, we don't.
Here, I'm coming around to your gaff.
We have, what I thought when I was growing up, I thought we had a very normal, regular Christmas.
Yeah.
But then as I got older into my teens, I realised that we don't have a normal Christmas, and that we don't do anything that anyone else does. Like, we don't watch TVs, we don't watch Christmas movies. We have, like, Christmas dinner. We have it about 3 o'clock. And, well, we used to have my dad's family over for dinner. And there was about 15 of us. And we'd have Christmas dinner in each house. So there'd be 3, my aunt and my uncle and our house. So each year it would swap around. And we stopped that. We just have dinner in our own houses. But then we come over to the designated house and we drink and party and dance until about 4 in the morning.
And you never have a row?
No.
Over nothing?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe who gets to pick the song to dance to, but that's about it.
I think everybody should go round to your place.
Everybody does. Everyone
Oh,
says,
right.
my friends, they're like, can we come over? I'm like, no, it's family only. So, yeah, it's quite popular night.
That sounds like it. Well, any house that doesn't have any arguments over anything is the house to be in at Christmas. It really is.
Definitely.
All right, fair play, Sarah. Thank you. Paul, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Paul?
Adrian, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Paul.
We've 2 arguments every year.
Okay.
And one of them actually has only started in the last few years. The first one was whether to have or not have sprouts.
Really?
But since I started doing them my way, everyone wants the sprouts.
So what way do you do them?
Slice them up really thin, put them in a big roasting tray with smoked bacon, onion, some leeks, and that Hunter's sausage, like the Polish garlic sausage, and roast it with loads of butter, and it's absolutely amazing.
Oh, actually sounds very nice.
Honey and soya sauce as well.
That sounds lovely, actually.
It is really nice.
I'm a traditionalist. I like my sprouts done the old-fashioned way, and they can't be crunchy. If they're crunchy, I'll spit them out. They need to...
You obviously never ate your mother's sprouts.
Oh, no, my mother made them gorgeous.
Yeah, she used to... Well, my mother used to boil the living daylight.
Yeah, so did mine.
But the other one is, we always play Trivia Pursuit. And I always ask the questions. So my first comment whenever I ask a question, I look at the answer and go, oh, that's easy. So they start moaning about that because I have the answer in my hand. And plus, I'm always giving one of my nephews all the answers. Whoever gets me the nicest present gets the answers for Trivia Pursuit. Can't be done.
Board games do always lead to arguments, though.
They're dangerous.
Yeah,
especially when everyone's drinking.
Yeah, with a few drinks, they're lethal. Especially, I mentioned this because nobody really knows the rules to Monopoly properly, and we all play a different version of Monopoly.
Yeah,
and it does lead to rows.
Stupidly, we think we're all intelligent, and we get the Trivia Pursuit, the genius one.
Yes, indeed.
And nobody can answer those questions. We've been looking for the one for Egypt for years. We can't find it.
There isn't such a version, yeah.
There is. There's one for dummies, but I just can't find it.
If you think you have it bad, wait till you hear from Barry. Barry, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Barry?
How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Barry, in your gaff, Christmas Day is just one big row.
One big row. All from the minute we get up in the morning till the minute we go to bed.
Oh, what?
Never
like
stopped. Absolutely everything.
Like what? Come on, give me a few ideas.
From taking the turkey out of the oven to putting the chaps to bed and everything. Just non-stop all day long.
It's yeah, and I know an awful lot of houses are like that. Now, not blazing rows, but just disagreeing about everything.
Absolutely everything, even if I open a drink, Adrian.
That's what I was about to say. Actually, that'd be the thing now I get into trouble over. You're not having another drink, are you? You're having another drink, and that leads to a row. But no, lots of houses are full of rows for the whole day. I hate the day, actually.
No, I don't want it. I love it. It's for the kids and all, but Jesus, when the missus starts, she just never stops,
Yeah, and so what's the worst thing you argue over? What's an annual one?
An annual one?
Yeah.
Jesus. To be making the dinner, which one is making the dinner?
Well, here, let me see how many of these you get. This is the list. This is the survey, okay?
Okay.
Do you argue over the remote control?
Yep.
Okay. Do you argue over the Christmas dinner?
Yep.
Okay. Do you argue over the washing up?
No, because I just kind of won't do it,
Oh, you just point blank refuse?
Yeah. Well, not always, but most of the time, yeah.
Do you argue over what time to open the presents?
Yeah.
Okay, do you argue...
I do be saying it's too early, she does be saying it's not.
Okay, do you argue over what movie to watch?
Yeah.
Okay, do you argue over kids using mobile phones and laptops whilst at the table?
No.
No,
because
okay.
they don't get them at the table. That's one thing that doesn't happen in our place.
Okay, do you argue over old family feuds?
Yep.
Oh, yep, great. Do you argue... Here's one I'd never even thought of. Do you argue over the temperature of the house?
Oh, Jesus, no.
Oh, that actually causes arguments. The heating's on too much or the heating's not on enough.
Actually, well, I get that most of the year, but not just Christmas Day.
Fair enough, okay. You argue over having a drink?
Yep.
Yep, that's always one in our house. And do you argue over who's going to be able to stay in the house and who can't if you have visitors over?
No.
Right, okay. Well, you answered a fair few of them now, it has to be said.
And they're all yes to most of them, I know.
Yeah, all right, fair play. Thanks very much indeed. There you go. Happy Christmas indeed. They are some of the things that you argue over Christmas time. We have those same arguments in our house every single year, says that message. And, oh yes. Sorry, here's the final message. My 3 kids get up at stupid o'clock and bitch and nitpick at each other for the whole day because they're all knackered. I know now how my mum and dad were pissed by 6 in the evening. Oh, yes, it's every single family house. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. We were contacted onto a completely different matter and a more serious matter. And in fact, something I wanted to talk about for a couple of minutes is the effect of having a drug addict on the entire family. We were contacted by a listener that we're calling simply James, and whose voice we are going to disguise in just a moment, who wanted to highlight how families can be torn apart by drugs and the difficulties of having a family member who is addicted to drugs. James, as we're calling him, his brother was recently released from prison. He's been in and out of prison for the last 5 years, all as a direct result of his drug addiction. His last sentence was for 2.5 years, with the last 5 months spent in the medical unit of the prison, where he had to come off all drugs, heroin, benzos, painkillers, and he was completely clean when he was released from prison. And James joins me on the line now. James, welcome to 98 FM.
Thanks, Adrian.
Now, just to explain to our listeners that we have disguised your voice to protect your identity and the identity of your family. So, James, your brother has been in and out of prison a number of times, but was released recently and came out of prison clean.
Yes, that's correct, Adrian. It's actually over the last 10 years, I'd say, he's been in jail, in and out at different stages. So basically, he's done 2.5 years there recently, and I was speaking to him, got back in touch with him over the last couple of months. He had great intentions, start to build back the relationship with the kids. He had good plans. He was going to do some voluntary work, he's just trying to get his life back in order.
And it all seemed very positive then.
It really did, yeah. Very positive. The most positive I've seen him in 10 years, as we were growing up. He'd always say one thing, but he'd do another. And you'd always know that he was kind of on some type of drug. He'd be messing around, whether it's tablets or it's sedatives or something like that. But this time I was really hopeful. I really thought he was that torn in the corner.
And I know already there are people listening right now who can completely relate to what you're saying, that you saw a side to him that you thought, we might be getting somewhere here. He might have kicked the drugs for once and for all. And that's what he was like when he came out of prison.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, he was out. He was only out a couple of days. And I met him in town on the second day. He had to sort out. He was actually very lucky before that, because he was told, he was a bit worried before he came out, because he was told that there was no accommodation basically, for him, and that he would have to go to a hostel over the north side. I think it was over Cabra somewhere. And he was really concerned about that, because he was afraid that he heard rumours that there was a lot of people over there still using in the hostels, and he knew himself, if he went into that environment, he was going to go straight back to where he was. It was only the last day of his release, the probation officer said to him, it turned out we have you on file since 2015-16, so we're able to bump your case up. So basically, instead of going to a hostel, he actually secured accommodation for himself.
Okay, which is something that not everybody coming out of prison gets. So he came out of prison, had already got somewhere to live, had a completely new outlook on life, in terms of, you saw a positivity in him, that he had kicked the drugs, he had somewhere to live, and you and the family obviously thought, fingers crossed, we're onto something here.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the family have kind of cut ties with him over the last few years because of false promises and, doing various things on the family over the years. And, I didn't keep in touch with him as much as I would have liked, but It was kind of like he preferred that, do you know what I mean? Because he was getting on with his life.
Okay, well,
to be left alone.
I'm going to take a very quick break, but after that break, James, I want to find out about what has happened since he has been released from prison, which unfortunately isn't such a good tale. Stay with me for 1 second, James. We'll take a quick break, and I'd love to hear from you if your family have been affected by a drug addict and the impact that it has on families. Quick break. We're back in just a moment. Live and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM, Monday through Friday between 10 and midday. This is Adrian Kennedy. You're with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And Georgie is here with Wednesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. British Prime Minister Theresa May has cancelled her trip to Dublin today. She's dealing with a no-confidence vote this evening instead and has warned her MPs that getting rid of her could stop Brexit happening. French police have identified the suspect thought to be behind a shooting at a Christmas market in Strasbourg last night. 3 people were killed and 12 injured. Scouting Ireland says there's evidence that alleged child abusers were moved around scouting organisations. 317 alleged victims and 212 alleged abusers spanning over a 70-year period have now been identified. The Irish Independent reports that alleged abusers were at all levels. And the average person will spend €267 on taxis, takeaways and dining out this Christmas. Now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Wednesday morning. This is Adrian Kennedy and this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin and about Dublin. Now, we're in the middle of a conversation with James. James is the brother of a drug addict, and we've disguised his voice and changed his name to protect his identity and the identity of the family. James had been explaining how his brother has been in and out of prison for the last number of years. His last sentence was for 2.5 years, with the last 5 months spent in the medical unit of the prison, where he had to come off all drugs, and he came out of prison with somewhere to live and having a totally different outlook and a more positive outlook on life. He was clean of all drugs, and it looked like, for once and for all, his brother was going to, well, get his act together, I suppose. Now, I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. We want to focus on the effect that having a drug addict in a family can have on that family. Call me right now on 6797 981. So, James, your brother is released from prison. He has somewhere to live. He's clean of all drugs. But unfortunately, this new outlook on life didn't last.
No, surprisingly it didn't. And I at least thought he would have, gave it a proper go this time. I at least thought he would have waited at least to see the kids that he hasn't seen in years, or hasn't had a relationship with in years. Mm-hmm. So I suppose that's the main thing that kind of shocks me. Fair enough, okay, he wants to go and resort to his old antics, that's good. But the fact that I've been talking to him over the past 5 months and he's been telling me how concerned he is about the kids and asking me for pictures and how they're getting on, it just blew me away, I suppose, when he got out, he came back to the area, he was basically back on drugs and goofing before he even seen his children. I was just took back by that, that how could anyone, having not seen their children in so long, go and resort to this,
Okay, now, I mean, let's be perfectly clear, it's probably not a bad thing that he's not seeing his kids if he's back on drugs again, but you would have thought that might be a motivation to stay clean.
Yeah, no, I mean before he went back on the drugs. He didn't even wait to speak to the kids or see the kids. He chose the drug before he even had any contact with the kid when he got out on his release.
So, what has he been up to since he went back on drugs?
So basically, day one he was okay. He sourced accommodation through a well-known charity. I won't mention the name. Now, obviously, the place was, wasn't in the area where he was violent before. It was away from everything, so that was good. I spoke to him for 2 days. He was living with a couple of people, a house. They were all very nice. They were all kind of clean. They're all doing rehabilitation, linked in with day services, outreach. They're all kind of doing well. So that was positive as well. So I thought that was great. So then day 3 then, he rang me, basically said that he was in my mother's house. And as soon as he said that, the flag went off in my head. I was like, he did tell me the day previous that he wasn't going to go around the area because of fear of going back on drugs. And then I said, he was looking for the phone off me. I said, yeah, no problem, I'll drop up, have a cup of tea, and, I'll give you that, etc. So I went up and, thought, like, this was great, like, get back in touch. I told him I'd probably get the gym membership, and, go for a couple of drinks with him, etc., etc. Walked into the house and he was just on the sofa and just goofing, he was just out of his head. I just could not believe it. And what made him more kind of serious to me was that he didn't even realise how bad he was. He thought he was able to have a conversation with me, and for me not to know, he was oblivious to, me. And I walked up with my little lad as well, like, and he hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and he was like, "Oh, uncle, my uncle, is he going to, buy me presents and take me to the park and stuff like that." When he walked in, like, he could literally open his eyes. He was just on the sofa, just kind of, just goofed, just in a different world, like, just out of it.
Now, this is having a direct impact on your own mum, who is quite ill.
Yeah, like, she is quite ill. I don't like to say the word, like, dying, but I'll say her condition is deteriorating. And over the next few years, it's going to deteriorate further. She has seen where, year on year, her symptoms are going to get worse, and basically she's going to lose all mobility. She takes kind of absent seizures. She's generally not well. She suffers from a lot of things. She's quite old. And, she has put up with this over the years, 10, 15 years. And, I just don't think she can take it anymore. She's just too fragile, and she's gone through a lot herself.
Okay, so he's in and out of the house. Is he staying in the house?
He is at the minute, yeah. Because he's back on drugs now, and one of the conditions of the new accommodation was that he was clean, and he had to give urines kind of on a daily basis in order to keep the home. Because he's also living with lads that are clean. So basically, if he goes back on drugs, it's like a kind of flag that, potentially they could go back on drugs. But because he hasn't been clean since, he's been afraid to go over, for whatever reason, like, he's just kind of stayed in my mouth the past 2 or 3 days, and he's been just getting high ever since, really.
And how is she coping?
She's not coping very well, to be honest with you. I'm getting constant calls from her saying that she can't do this anymore. She's worried about her own health. To make matters worse, actually, she was kind of like bad on the drink for a while, for years, I'd say 10, 15 years, and she's finally managed to kind of come off drink, and she's been kind of off the drink as in alcohol. She's been off everything for the last 6 months, and she's been doing really well. She's back eating, she's back putting on a bit of weight, she's trying to get on with her life, looking forward to Christmas. But now, with my brother back out, it's just thrown everything up into the air, and she's just quite stressed around the whole situation, to be honest.
Okay, now one of the reasons that you contacted us, James, is looking for advice from our listeners as to how to deal with this situation without necessarily getting aggressive with them and physically dragging them out of the house and telling them not to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, like, there's a lot of people out there that have gone through the same problem, have addictions, and, I'm lucky enough, like, I've never been there, I don't know what it's like, but I mean, this guy, and some guys I know as well, it's just, there's no help for them, there's no help, there's everything is given to them, in the prison, they get counselling, they get to see psychologists, psychiatrists, the resources, the methadone treatment, everything over the years. And my brother, I can only speak on my brother, he's had everything. He's had help from everything. And nothing seems to work. He's not taking any responsibility for anything. He's not owning up to his own problem. He just wants help. It's someone else's problem. I just don't think there's any help in him, and that's, as sad as it is, I just think he falls into that category where he cannot be helped.
Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. If you have any advice as to what can be done here. I take it that you don't live in the house yourself, James?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No.
But you can see what's going on. You can see the effect that it's having on your mother. You can see a brother who's just given up on life again and is back on the drugs again. But you want to try and help to resolve this in order that your mum can live a peaceful life, basically.
Yeah, because even though I'm not in the house, I know what's going on because I lived with him before when he was up to his own antics. I lived with him before, over the years before I got my own place. So I know exactly how manipulating he can be, in terms of getting money off my mother, in terms of saying one thing and doing another. She couldn't even see from him when I went into the house the first day that he was not taking anything. But I was in the house 1 second and I knew straight away. So he's obviously playing my mother. She's not as kind of savvy or as kind of wise as I would be to his ways, if that makes sense.
Okay, like I said, you're asking what you can do to protect your mum without getting violent or argumentative with him. And if you have any suggestions, please text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Let me read out one of your messages that's just come in, and it says, one of my family members was addicted to heroin for years. He finally got clean in the past year, but here's where it gets messy. He's still in a relationship with a drug addict. A member of my family noticed one day that his spare keys for his car were missing after his girlfriend being in his home. One night he was sitting in his sitting room and saw lights coming on in his drive, thinking it was just his wife coming out. Coming in, he didn't look out. After a minute, he realised that his wife hadn't come in yet and looked out the window. He then saw his car being driven down the road. To this day, we cannot accuse the addict girlfriend, not only because of no evidence, but because it could send my family member back on drugs again, says that message. And the point being that it is very difficult to get your act together when you're surrounded by people who are still taking drugs. And I know that is one of the things that they would suggest in drug rehabilitation, that you try and change your circle of friends and don't end up going back into the same routine. My family says, this is another message. My family is affected by my drug addict brother. He's a heroin addict who will lose his leg from injecting if he doesn't stop. The last time I remember not being afraid to be near him was my communion. I'm now 28. I love my brother, but he's unpredictable on drugs. And James, as you can hear, your family, sadly, isn't the only family that is directly affected by the drug taking. And this is one of the things that has always shocked me about drug addicts. I myself am a drug addict, and when I say that, I'm a nicotine addict. But that doesn't have an impact on other people around me, or a direct impact at least. Where what I'm hearing from you and from those messages that we read out is that being a heroin addict does have a direct impact on everybody.
Yeah, and can I just add, Adrian, since his release as well, around the area, I won't mention the area, but there has been kind of on Facebook there's a neighbourhood watch group. And since his release, there's been a lot of kind of burglaries and things going on. And I know he is to blame for two of those things.
Really?
And he's broken into the car, stolen things. My mother was woke up the next morning. There's been a couple of laptops there. I'm not saying he's to blame for everything going on in the area. But you put two and two together. there's an increase in incidents in this area on the neighbourhood watch group, and then, this person who was notorious for doing this sort of thing in the past, it's happening again. In my eyes, I know you can't blame him for everything that's going on, but, you don't just wake up and, laptops in the house and pictures and, things like that. And that's just an added stress for my mother, besides her health, conditions. Is, the neighbours hearing about these things, and, it's just not good for her.
One of the, I've a number of messages coming in. Try and get him to Narcotics Anonymous. Try and get that guy to look for a woman called Sister Concilio. Her organisation helped my brother get off heroin years ago, and it completely changed his life. When was the last conversation you had with him about getting off drugs?
Well, I spoke to him 2 days ago, and like that, some of the stuff that he stole, I happen to know the person who he stole it from. And he rings me up then, having not spoken to me in 2 days, not to apologise for what he did or what he put my mother through, but to ask me for money, because he didn't get he doesn't get his welfare until Thursday. And I basically just told him, listen, don't contact me anymore, I'm done with you. You can't be doing this anymore. It's ridiculous. I just cut off all ties with him. I don't think he can be helped unless he wants to be helped.
It's very sad. It really is. Let me just bring in a quick call on this. Dave, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Dave?
Hi, folks.
Good, Dave. What did you want to say?
Look, first of all, I just want to say sorry to your man. You're having to deal with that, because drugs can just absolutely destroy families. My brother was addicted to heroin for years, and they got in touch with there's a woman called Sister Concilio. No, I think it's private, and you have to pay for it, but he got in with her. They'll take you away. He was with her for years, and they take you out of the place you've been in. You live, there's a place in Galway, actually, where you live in dorms, but they don't just get you clean. They actually give you a reason to stay clean, because he came out, now, he was a qualified carpenter when he went in. But when he came out, he went from being a skinny, ratty-looking little scumbag to a guy who was built like a brick shithouse. He came out as a qualified gym instructor. He had scaffolding tickets. They completely just take all your wants for drugs away. He's been clean now for the last 18 years. He's got 2 kids. He does carpentry on the side for people as well, and he's never looked back.
But the difference here is, and this is the key to this conversation, Dave, a drug addict needs to want to get off it himself. Family can't force him to do it.
Oh, that's true, but my family kind of pretty much forced my brother into doing it. They said, listen, if you don't go and do this program, we are done with you, and we don't care what happens to you. You see, the problem with, you can get people clean, but if you put them back into the same, send them back to where they came from, around where their old habits were, they're just going to fall into, to the same routine.
I know, but the sad part of James's story is that his brother was released from prison. He had somewhere to live. He was clean of drugs, and he wasn't put back into that old circle again. And he still threw it all away.
No. And I know what you're talking about. But the thing is about these people and this program is, they give you a reason to want to stay clean. They don't just say, okay, here's a halfway house for you to live in. They help you get your life back together. They give you a reason for you to get up in the morning and say, I'm not touching drugs again. Because this woman, I met this woman myself. My dad used to work for her, and she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. And they have a serious success rate. They have a way better success rate, and it's a lot better than going on a methadone program or just going to jail and getting clean. You go there, they will help you go back to education. They'll help you get qualifications. So when you go back out into the world, you can be a functioning, productive member of society. My brother said it himself, if it wasn't for that woman, he'd probably be dead now. He owns his own house, he's got 2 beautiful children, he's got a job that he loves, and he says it himself, if it wasn't for that woman.
Okay, so this is the Cúnmhuire Centre, and it's Sister Concilio.
Yeah.
And
she has places all over the country. They have a place in Kildare, they have a place in Athy, Athy's in Kildare. They have a place in Galway. They have a beautiful manor house out in Tipperary as well. And she's a lovely lady, but she cracks the whip. You know, she doesn't like give you any pity. She says, "Listen, you're here because you messed up, and you know you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're going to mass. You're working on a farm. You're doing your education."
And this is something that James can put to his brother as a suggestion, but unfortunately, he is the one who has to make that decision.
You can lead the horse to water, but you know you can't make him drink. I know, but it's a lot better than the other options of just going to a treatment centre, getting clean, and then back out, and you're back to square one, basically. You know, if you give somebody a reason to stay off drugs, they will stay off drugs.
However, that's a nice positive story to hear, and I know anybody living with a drug addict or as a drug addict in their family would love it to turn out that way, in the way in which your situation ended, Dave, which is good news. But I want to read a message that's just come into us, and it says, "Very sad. We've been to hell and back with our children on drugs." That message came from a lady whose name we've also changed and whose voice we're also disguising to protect her identity, because, Marie, this is a very difficult thing for families to even talk about, isn't it?
It certainly is, Adrian, and my heart is going out to that man and his mother, because I know how hard it is. We've been through it. It's horrendous. You know, we're a working class family, and we would come from an area where people would say it's disadvantaged, but we worked all our life. I was brought up in the area, and we've never had any problems. And then my children, as teenagers, start getting into the wrong crowd. We've done everything.
And sorry, how many children are we talking about?
Well, I'm talking about 3 that would have dabbled. One came out the other side. He ended up in prison as well. He wouldn't have taken heroin now, but he was tablets and all that kind of stuff, got into the wrong crowd. I had to put him out. He was homeless, ended up in prison. I actually told him that if I had to bring him and get him to hand himself in at one stage, because there was nothing else for him. And thankfully he came out the other side after spending nearly 4 years in prison for petty crimes. They weren't like big crimes. I'm not saying any crime is okay, but for petty crimes.
And was this all drug related? Was this all because his life was spiralling out of control with drugs?
With drugs. It was spiraling out of control, and also robbing them to pay for stuff and selling and all that. He came out to the side, that was fine. Then I had a daughter, and that she decided to go down that road. And I do understand that if you mix with the wrong people, but I still believe that it's up to yourself. And they were minded, very well loved, cared for, talked well, I'm sure, as that chap was. And they just chose to go there. I chased them around the area, I drove around, and the only thing I can say that helped me and my husband become stronger was I went to counselling. I brought my children to counselling. They decided it wasn't for them. Mm-hmm. And I went, and I found the strength then to carry on and to say, I remember one time my daughter was graduating, and I was worried sick that if I told her she wasn't going to the party later or out with the friends, that there'd be uproar in the house. I bought her a dress, and I remember it was my first day going to counselling. She was with me, and I was thinking, I can't do it. So I just made myself go to counselling. Now, I work in an area, and I work with people that actually would have been drug addicts, and it still never prepares you for your own children. But I remember the day I went to counselling. That evening was my daughter's graduation. When I left counselling, I found the strength to say, you can go to graduation, we'll attend Richard, but you're certainly not going out afterwards. And I was able to take her having a meltdown or a strap or whatever you want to call it, because the counselling, for whatever reason, was just for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but really, really helped me.
And you see, sadly, in the situation, in the story that we heard a couple of minutes ago from James, I don't think that mother has that strength because she has been unwell. But for you had to get that strength in order to be able to deal with it yourself.
Be able to feel in any way human again, and to continue carrying on, walking on in life, because I was thinking, and no matter what I did, it wasn't helping. It wasn't helping me. They didn't want to listen. They didn't want to know. They promised us something in the stars, and then it went back again. And we were breaking. My husband and I were just breaking. Didn't know what to do. It was family members. My children were stealing from them. We were paying back. I actually paid drug dealers coming to my door and everything, but I didn't know what to do to protect them. And then I realised that I can't do it. They have to do it. They have to want it. You know?
And did you threaten to throw them out? Did you?
No, I put them out.
You put them out. Okay. So
one of the hardest things I had to do in my life, but I did it.
Okay, stay there on the line for 1 second if you can, please, because I just want to explore this a little bit more with regard to, you know, how terrifying it must be to have drug dealers call into your house. And I'm also going to be talking to a lady who texted us in a while ago who lost her son to drugs. This is 98 FM. I'd like to hear from you as well on 6797981. We're talking about the effect that drug addiction has on other family members who have nothing to do with drugs. But because of a family member getting involved in drugs, it has a spin-off effect on absolutely everybody. We're back in just a moment.
98 FM, Dublin Talks.
With the Des Kelly Interiors gift voucher. The perfect present this Christmas.
98 FM.
They say that drug addicts are the most selfish people of all because they get addicted to drugs and they don't care about anybody but their drugs. Now, that is the power of that addiction that they develop, that it literally takes over your life, that it takes over the life of somebody who might have been a really decent person before that, but when they get trapped in this addiction cycle, they care about nobody but their drugs. And what we're talking about is the effect that that person has on their entire family, who have nothing to do with drugs. We were talking with Marie, whose voice we have disguised to protect her identity and that of her family. And she was describing how 3 of her children started dabbling in drugs, and it ended up that she is the one that went for counselling to make her stronger as a person to cope with it. And Marie, tell me about what it was like having drug dealers knock at your door.
It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. So luckily, and I know it doesn't sound that we were lucky, but we were very lucky because we have, my husband and I have a great relationship. We do love the children very much, but we love them. We had to realise we love ourselves also. So I paid once with the support of my husband, although he was really upset about it, and then that was it, never again. And I had to put my youngest son out then and tell the drug dealers that he doesn't live here with us anymore. You know. So
okay, you say you went for counselling to develop that strength, but still putting your youngest child, what age was he at that time?
18, nearly 18. He wasn't actually 18.
He wasn't actually 18, and you ended up having to throw him out.
Yeah, and I know some people may not agree with it, but walk a day in my shoes, and then they would say, you know, it's a tough thing because, I mean, you have your children, you look them, you care for them, and then you have to make this horrendous decision.
Which must be soul-destroying. It must be as difficult as nearly burying a child.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't buried a child, thank God, but it was soul-destroying. Thankfully, my youngest son now is home. He's working, and I know he still does little bits of stuff like smoking and stuff, but it's nothing that's extreme, and she's not allowed in her home if he smokes anything, or he's not allowed to bring anything into her home. We're looking at hopefully, but because of the situation in the country, hopefully maybe getting him a little better for himself, because he's of age now where that he can move out and have his own independence, and she's kept the job now for nearly 2 years.
Well, that's fantastic. And the other two?
My other son now has a wonderful job, a wonderful partner, and she has 2 lovely girls, and life is great. So, thank God. And
so
my daughter is on the way.
Is on the way, okay. So as a family, you are slowly but surely coming through this, seeing light at the end of the tunnel. But the point of this whole conversation is the effect that drug addiction or even dabbling in drugs has on the entire family.
It's absolutely huge. You go around during the day, you're trying to walk and be normal, and you're going around thinking, how can I even talk to people, be normal, behave in a sociable manner when you know everything that's going on. I mean, there's things that I had to do in my life that I never thought I'd ever have to do because of my children. And as I said, we all love our children, but you know, we have to love ourselves, and we only have one life, so if somebody is choosing, and as you said there, they are very, very selfish, to take drugs and ruin their life, we have to step back because we have one life. That's it. We're gone after that, you know.
Now, thankfully, Marie, you have made it through without having lost one of your children, and touch wood, that never happens.
Yeah.
Because if you stay there for a second, here's a story of somebody who that exact thing happened to. Annette, welcome to 98 FM.
How you doing?
Annette, you sadly lost your son to drugs.
I did. I lost him to a heroin overdose. He'll be 6 years gone on the 9th of January.
And we were talking about the effect that drug addiction has on families while the person is alive, but it leaves a very painful mark when they actually die.
Yeah, because there's the what ifs and like most of your callers before, I tried to help my son. I mean, I paid drug pushers at the door. I'm still paying the banks off for loans that I got to pay drug pushers. I was threatened with hammers. I was threatened with guns. I have 2 other children who never touched drugs that got left by the wayside while we tried to deal with the addiction of my son. It had a ripple effect through the whole family, and one of your callers was saying, like, there's services out there, but unfortunately the services don't align with the drug addict when they're ready to commit to sorting their lives out. It's not a question of, I'm going to stop taking drugs today and I'm going to go here and I'm going to get that and this will happen.
I know, but at the very start of this conversation we heard a story from James about his brother who came out of prison clean. He came out of prison with somewhere to live. It's not like he was going to be sleeping in a cardboard box. He had somewhere to live, and he just decided to give the 2 fingers to all that.
Well, my son was clean for 18 months. He moved down the country to start a new life for himself. But because of his drug abuse earlier on, he had no friends. He had no social skills. He had no, he couldn't cope. And unfortunately, he got into a relationship, and both of him and his partner ended up on drugs, and he ended up dead. It's not as simple. Like, addiction is, as you said, it's a very, very strong. It takes over every aspect of everybody's life. Even if I've never touched a cigarette in my life. I've just completed a drug and alcohol addiction study course. So as I am, and my son is gone, and no one else in my family is on drugs. So as I could understand the cycle
and
of addiction better.
What have you learned? What is your understanding as to what happened to your son then?
What I took out of what I learned was that my son became addicted through an emotional trauma. We all knew that. And he couldn't deal with emotions in his senses. So he dulled his senses by taking drugs.
Okay, now, I know that would be a reason for some people taking drugs, but not for all.
No, one shoe doesn't fit all.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Unfortunately, there are a million reasons why people take drugs, and some people think they're the big guy or girl and they won't get addicted, blah, blah. We all know those. Unfortunately, addiction is a very, very strong. You've talked about they would walk over their own mother to get to what they need. They will take everything from you to get what they need. They will lie, they will cry, they will use every emotion, and unfortunately, behind all that is the child you gave birth to, who you love unconditionally. So your emotions are absolutely traumatized, you can't think rationally. You're thinking like, if I don't help this child, he's going to be shot. If I don't help this child, he'll be found dead somewhere. How do I live with that on my conscience?
I know, but that was unfortunately the decision that lady Marie had to take, that she had to get the strength to say, I'm sorry, you cannot live in this house anymore, which is what she ended up having to do.
And my son couldn't live at home either, but I always knew where he lived, and I always had contact with him. I never lost contact. Even when he sold his phone, we got him a new one so as we could have contact. Because I could not lie in my bed not knowing where my child was. I don't care what he did. He was not known to the police. He never burgled anybody. He never robbed anybody, except his family. And the only people that he owed money to was his family, because we supported everything. I mean, I'm still 19,000 to pay to the banks on John has gone 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I do it again tomorrow.
And like I said already, that is the power of a parent's love for their child, regardless of what they do to you.
Yeah.
And, if we're talking about the effect that drug addiction has on families, your story, sadly, Anne, is just a prime example of how devastating it can be. I want to read I want to take one more call and one more message. And Anne, again, we've disguised your voice, and I do understand. Obviously, we couldn't do the entire radio show with people's voices disguised, but I understand in this particular instance and this particular conversation how it is so important. Yeah. And you've never rang a radio show before in your life?
No, never. I just got very upset just listening to it. I have a brother, and he was on drugs over 20 years ago. He's after 15, had a great job in the area. He was a counsellor. He's a counsellor, but he's not now. He helps loads of people, and now he's back on. He's not on heroin. He's taking all different tablets. And I'm very close to him. Our family is kind of split. He doesn't see all. He's on his own. He has his home. But I'm afraid that he went in 3 months ago to get clean, and he lasted 4 days.
4 days.
4 days. So he's going in now in January again. I'm not talking to him now. He was up in my home, and I was trying to tell him, I believe in tough love. Sister Concelia years ago, he was with her, and I went to a meeting, and I do believe in tough love, but it's breaking my heart, because it's like if he's going around, he's forgetting everything. And
he's facing what will be a miserable Christmas.
He told me that he was depressed and lonely, and I said, you're welcome in my home every day as long as you're okay, I said. So he'd come up and he'd be okay, but I knew he'd have to been taking something the night before. So he goes to meetings during the day, and then of the weekend he'll take stuff. They buy and sell you. I haven't a clue.
And that was the thing that I was saying earlier on, Anne. I describe myself as a form of a drug addict in that I still smoke. I've tried to stop smoking. I've gone back on cigarettes, blah, blah, blah.
I fight myself.
And I fight with myself every day over it. But the big difference here is, bar family perhaps worrying about my health, it doesn't have a direct impact on family and friends, me smoking cigarettes. But I can relate to the not being able to give the bloody things up, despite the fact that I've tried and tried and tried. It's so sad to hear a story like that, Anne, about your brother. And Annette, I wish you well. It sounds like you've learned a lot, and maybe you'll never really come to terms. But maybe you have come to terms with your son's passing, have you?
No, I'll never come to it. It's unnatural to walk the earth and have buried your child. I'll carry that flag till the day I die. But I have 2 daughters and 9 grandchildren, and I'm trying to be as strong and as productive as I can for those, My daughters never touch drugs. They're productive people in society. Unfortunately, my son just couldn't cope.
Annette, I wish you well, and I appreciate you talking to us. Let me just read out one last message, and it says, I've just made a donation to Quinwera after hearing about the good work that's done by these people. We need to hear more success stories when people survive addiction. I think families of addicts really need to hear these success stories. They give them a reason to live. That's very nice of that person for doing that. Anyway, they are very sad stories, but the point of the conversation was to highlight the effects that drug addicts have on their families. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy till midday today. After the break, we're going to find out on a completely different track. We're going to find out just how adventurous and daring you are. Find out what I'm talking about straight after the break.
98 FM's Dublin Talks
with the Des Kelly Interiors gift voucher for beds, flooring and more.
98 FM.
Great article in one of the newspapers earlier on today, which Jeremy has for us here, about a couple who were, let's put it this way, frisky and couldn't control themselves.
Well, they're claiming now that they didn't actually do the do. This is about a Danish couple who were photographed on top of one of the pyramids in Egypt. Now, you've been to Egypt. I've never
been to the pyramids, actually.
Oh, have you not?
No,
why would you go to Egypt and not go to the pyramids?
Long story.
Anyway, this couple went to the pyramids in Egypt and photographed themselves doing it on top of one of the pyramids, and there's war going on. Well, not actual war, but the Egyptian authorities are not happy about it because they say, the pyramids are a sacred ground and that it's forbidden to do your do on top of the pyramid. But looking at the photograph here, the couple look quite happy. They're both naked on top of the pyramid. It looks quite dangerous because they're quite high up, those pyramids,
they're very
aren't they?
high, yeah.
But it sparked a whole debate about how adventurous couples are nowadays and whether or not couples are still moving from outside the bedroom to do it. Now, are Irish couples adventurous? Well, we're going to find out, aren't we, Adrian?
Yes, we are. We want you to text or WhatsApp us right now to 0877 98 98 98. Where's the most daring place you ever did it, basically?
Well, you don't have... Not daring, like...
Well, it is daring. Top of the pyramids, half of Egypt looking at you. That's fairly daring. I was at I mentioned this earlier on.
You know who was looking at them when they were doing it? Their mummy.
I was in France about a year ago, and we were. I was brought to this old castle.
Where are you going with this? Is this about you or about another
No, it's not about me. I was brought to this castle, okay, and it's from the 1600s and blah 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 blah. Yep, and you go up onto the roof of the castle and you can look over the whole of France and into Switzerland and everything else. Amazing view. Okay?
Yeah,
and the view was amazing. And I looked over the side of the castle. And what do I see on the ground below the castle?
An out-of-breath soldier.
No, two couples, a couple at it on the ground, literally in public view of everybody who was in the area. Where is the most adventurous place you've ever done it?
Or the strangest place?
Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. So I didn't do it at an old castle, but I did do it once on a train.
Oh.
Yeah.
In Ireland?
No, in England.
Okay.
And it was a train from...
the Gatwick Express, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was, I think it was it Luton maybe? One of those tacky, cheap, nasty airports out in the middle of nowhere.
That'd be Luton, yeah.
And we were on the train heading into London city centre, and there was nobody around.
Yeah.
And there was a non-stop train.
London's deserted. There's never people in London.
No, but there was nobody on the train.
Okay, yeah.
Well, in our carriage.
Okay.
There was in other carriages, but not in our carriage. It was empty. It was... So,
So basically what happened is you started as the train was pulling into the station, and by the time it got to the station, the job was done. Is that pretty much it?
Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Angela, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Angela, where's the most adventurous place you've ever done it?
On honeymoon, jacuzzi overlooking the beach.
On honeymoon, jacuzzi overlooking the what?
The beach.
Oh, overlooking the... Oh, so like everybody could see if they wanted to?
Yeah, there was a few people around could have seen. There was a couple of villas around there, so they could have.
Now that's the reason. That's the reason, Angela. I have a big phobia about jacuzzis. I will not get into a jacuzzi in a hotel because you just know that an hour previous to that, a couple were after getting frisky in the jacuzzi. It's disgusting.
No, the only thing was it was our own jacuzzi.
Ah, well, that's different.
That's a little bit different.
Well, it's actually not because they don't clean out those jacuzzis. So when you checked out of that hotel, and the next couple checked into the hotel, it was the same jacuzzi.
Well, actually, now it was our own private villa.
Your own private villa, no less. Okay, so, but people could have seen it.
Yes, they could have. Yeah.
Okay, let me read out another one of your messages. Keep them coming in. 0877 98 98 98.
And don't make up stuff. Like someone just texted in, I did it on the pitch in Old Trafford. No, you didn't. You couldn't possibly have done that.
The local Garda station. It was about 11 at night in the waiting area, so there was no one there and no cameras. Nobody seemed to care, says that message. Keep them coming in. 6797981 is our telephone number. Shane, what did your text say?
I mean, the way to be very adventurous. Very.
Thanks for that, Shane.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Well, it was one, we were away a long, many years ago, and it was early in the morning, and we thought everyone was still in bed, and we were on the balcony and so on and so forth, and neither of us had a stitch of clothes on us. And sure, we were going at our best, and then all of a sudden, all you could hear was cheers all around. We were in the middle of the balcony, and everyone was up having their breakfast watching it.
No, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. You could have got booed. Cheers are good.
Oh, no, we were getting cheers there because we thought we didn't know what was going on, but yeah, we thought it was all right. But we were standing there, bollocks naked, and the apartments were having a good old laugh and a chuckle and a cheer and the whole lot of others. So we didn't mind. But,
and was this in Ireland, was it?
No. I know we come here with very adventures at home as well. The wife years ago, let's say, she was quite frisky, like, and we were on our way home from town one night in peeing rain, and we couldn't get a taxi for love nor money, so we stood in a shelter, and he thought it was a shelter, but it was windows, and we were sure one thing led to another, up against a window, and there was people in the bar watching us as well.
Sorry, against a window of a public house.
Yeah, we were drunk. We thought it was just a shelter. There was a window of a public house.
Unbelievable. Have you managed to keep yourself in check lately?
No, not really. Well, now, yeah, we're married and, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that's the end of that.
4 kids and the whole lot, like, but, yeah, no, but no, this was up until about 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, we were still, we should have 17 years, like.
Well, it doesn't actually change when you get married. We've become more adventurous since we got married. We were away at a weekend, just a couple's weekend, a couple of weeks ago, Shane, and we went to a hotel, and there was a sauna in the hotel, and we ended up getting frisky in the sauna. But little did we realise that in the sauna, they give you stuff to put on your body, like
yeah.
So they gave us a seaweed mask to put on ourselves, and we thought this would be quite. So we put the seaweed mask all over us, and we did the do. But didn't I take an allergic reaction to the seaweed? No, this isn't funny. And an hour later, after the thing happened, I was back in the hotel room, and the next thing, this little Jeremy flared up. I ended up having to go to the doctor to get him to examine little Jeremy. Little Jeremy was twice the size as he normally is.
He was all at 2 inches?
No, so the bottom line is I'm allergic to seaweed.
Oh, right, so you discovered that. Fair play. Thanks very much. Airplane toilet. Now, I can think of nowhere...
That's a lie, by the way. It's impossible to happen.
It's not. The Phoenix Park, the sea, a swimming pool, and a fetish club.
Is that all in one night?
Maybe it was. Samantha.
Hello.
Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Well, where's the most adventurous place you ever did it?
It was in the toilets in a Glasnevin church.
Oh,
we shouldn't. We're not laughing at that, are we?
No, indeed not. Can I just ask a question? And
don't ask that question.
Work with me here. What makes you feel like getting in the mood when you're in a church of all places?
Well, it wasn't like because we're in a church. It just happened. I don't know. It just happened.
Yeah, okay, but I'll work with you.
And did you get caught?
No.
And you wouldn't be telling these.
Maybe someone could have heard us. I don't know, but we didn't get caught anyway. It's
actually sacrilegious.
It is. It absolutely is. I was working as security in a local court. I did it in the holding cell on the weekend when it was closed.
Have you ever been in one of those holding cells?
No, thank God.
They're not romantic.
That was about 10 years ago, says that message. In the river up at Sally's Gap.
Oh my God, I swim in that river in the summertime, you dirty pig.
The back of the cinema, where? What cinema, Jamie? Oh, and a cave on the beach. And in the bath in the Rotunda Hospital.
Basically, you're not safe anywhere.
No,
don't wash in any bath in a public place. Anything.
And then one last one. My wife was pregnant. This is from accountant. My wife was pregnant. She was in the Rotunda Hospital and needed something to make things move along.
A curry.
No.
It's normally good for that.
They did
it is.
Behind the curtain in the labour ward
When
in the hospital.
When she was in labour. Is that even legal?
Thank you very much indeed. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Have a great Wednesday. Bye. Barry Dunn is live from Dundrum Town Centre. In the next hour, he's got some great music lined up like these.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With the Des Kelly Interiors gift voucher. The perfect present this Christmas.
98 FM.